is this going to happen? Like, what's the probability that, like, without, let's assume you've had no prior warning.
Yep.
Let's assume, your track record's been good. You haven't been, like, I don't know, drunk at the office or like showing up late every day. Like, you've made some mistakes, but like you haven't, done anything seriously wrong that would, warrant that. Ask yourself, like, how likely is it that I'm going to get fired? Right. What do you think that probability is?
Yeah, I would say, way less than 5%.
Yeah.
Right. I would say very minuscule. If I'm in trouble, might be something I didn't intend, a misunderstanding,
Yep.
and I just don't have those facts yet. But yeah, extremely unlikely when I think about it rationally.
Yeah. So when you really like engage that rational part, you're like, man, like they'd really be jumping the gun to like fire me if on based on this offense, right? Like that
Yeah.
was truly going to be it, right? So you start thinking about then other outcomes, like what's maybe more likely as a response to the threat. And this is where I'd say, like, you can be silly with this, or you can try to be more realistic. Maybe more realistic will actually be comforting. It's like, I might get yelled at, right? Like I might get put on a, discipline plan or like a personal accountability plan or something. But my career is not over. That's just going to be uncomfortable, right?
Right.
Maybe it'll damage my relationship with this boss, like whatever, right? And so start to name those other outcomes, and then, the next step is to think about like the catastrophe, right? So let's, occasionally the scary thing does happen, right? So let's imagine like, all right, like this is like, I know it's less than 5%, but like if my lottery number is going to get called and I'm going to get fired today, what would I do? Right? You wouldn't just poof out of existence, right? Like you wouldn't just like be gone and into the wind. So like, what would you do from walking out of that office to, the next couple days to cope with that? And so what do you think?
Yeah, for me, initially, it would be shock,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of emotional upset, but I have my support system. I
Mm-hmm.
have Megan. I also have that master's degree in neuroscience. Maybe I do go back and do more research. I don't get my clinical work. Or maybe it's like, hey, I go to the directors of clinical training and we talk about, do I find a new supervisor, right? What are these other options? Do I consider, if it's a research thing, I'm going pure clinical, right? Or I'm going to a different program that might tack on 4 more years, 6 more years to my life. But because this career means so much to me, unless it destroys me permanently, there are other steps I can do. And even though it's going to be very uncomfortable and annoying, I'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. So you name the catastrophe. It sounds like you're going to gather some information. You're going to be like, well, if I'm getting fired, is it because of my research? Like, and so you might actually think about like, I actually like don't really love this research or whatever. Or maybe I don't really like this boss. Like if I did get fired, I'd have a pretty clear reason to start looking for, a different research program or just focusing on clinical work, right? Like sometimes in, examples with patients, like sometimes it's like, well, I'd get a severance package. And so then I would maybe go like take a couple of classes and extend my career, or I'd like, what, I'm going to buy that like, I don't know, that like piece of art. I'm going to buy that new gaming system. And for like 4 days, I'm just going to be 13 in my basement and play Fortnite, like whatever. Right? And it's like, hey, like, that's not like, that's not getting eaten by a tiger. Like you're coping with it. You could do that. You could survive that. And so, when you go through that and you kind of imagine yourself coping with it, a lot of times, like, you kind of get to the end of this process. And now we're at the end of the skill. And I'd be saying like, okay, Brian, I want you to like re-rate yourself. Like, remember all that anxiety, that like 35 to 45 and anxiety that you were feeling. How do you feel now as you've kind of like walked through this and read this?
Yeah. For me, I'm still noticing a bit of discomfort. Probably about a 5% though. My heart rate physiologically, it's down. My muscles are not tense. And it doesn't seem like that's likely to happen. But if it was, I actually know the steps I would take.
Yeah. And so that's a great point that like, look, the emotion's not going to go away, right? Like it may not, sometimes it does, but like it may not. And what did change though was the intensity and your confidence that you have options, right? It doesn't feel so rigid, like, physically right in front of you without other options. It's, it's maybe held a little bit more loosely. You're able to work with it rather than against it. And so that's a skill that I really like. And I've taught that a lot of different ways and found some success with that lately.
Well, you and I could talk for hours and hours about all this stuff. There's much more to say. For viewers, listeners who they're interested in, let's say, either DBT, trauma, suicidality, I will just tell people your expertise. I mean, I have a front row seat to watching you get training, and it's truly an honor to have you be a friend and a colleague here. But for people who might be interested and they have more questions, they want to reach out, how can people learn more about you, your work, and how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so right now probably the best way to find me, you can check out our the website of the new practice I'm at, which is perspectiveomaha.com. So if you're in Nebraska, even if you're in one of the side pack states, you're interested in working with me, you can kind of take a look at that, or if you have questions for me, like a lot of my information is on there, about like my bio, some things I'm currently working on, stuff like that. The best email for me, you can shoot me an email, I'll respond, is jordan.kugler@perspectiveomaha.com. You can find me on Twitter. I think I'm jordan.kugler. Yeah, at jordan.kugler. I think that's it. Yeah. Those are probably the best ways. But yeah, like that, those websites have a lot of the things I'm working on. I'm also, I'm still working with the Utah Center for Evidence-Based Treatment. I'm just not taking new clients at this time there. And so, I have my bio. There's some incredible resources on that page. If you have questions or, things, I've got some TED Talks, some books that I really like are listed there. A lot of our team has, accumulated a lot of different therapy resources for the passerby. And yeah, we're working on some cool stuff over there too. So I've got my foot in like kind of two worlds right now. But if you're interested in working with me specifically, have questions for me specifically, probably contact me through Perspective Omaha. If you're in Utah, look at me through Utah Center for Evidence-Based Treatment. Check out that webpage.
Perfect. Well, Jordan, as always, truly a pleasure, always an honor. Yeah. I doubt very much this will be the last time we will do this.
I hope not, man. I hope I didn't scare anyone away. No, it's a blast, Brian. I love it as always. Great to talk to you.
All right, Jordan. Well, thanks so much. Great to talk to you.